a poppy birthday card. I'm going to be using both my Cricut and my Spellbinders Grand Caliber for this. This isn't an original idea of my own. I can't claim to have credit for this one. It is one I saw somewhere else, I can't remember where, and I've taken it and put my own spin on it. So hopefully you like it, and let's get going now with showing you what we've done with the Gypsy. Okay, so we're on my Gypsy, but you could obviously do this on Cricut Craft Room, and I've taken some poppies that I found on the Walk in My Garden cartridge, and I've taken 4 of them and I flipped, they're exactly the same design, I've just done them different sizes, and I flipped them around on these ones, or it may be the other ones, I'm not sure. So they're just making that nice design, and you can do that as you like, or you can do different, you know, you can do different flowers, whatever. Once I grouped them together, the height that I went for was 3.75, and my width turns out at 4.83, but you're looking to be about 4.75 to 5 inches wide maximum, because this is going to be a 6x6 card, or just under 6x6 actually. Okay, so that's kind of the sizing that you want. So then we're going to cut that out on a piece of rough cardstock, or if you've got some of the Dough-Flex kind of acrylic sheets, you can cut it on that, and that gives you a more permanent stencil. I don't need a permanent one, I'm not planning on particularly doing this again, but if you wanted to create stencils, then that would be the way to go. Okay, so we're going to go and cut that out now on my Cricut. So here's our stencil all cut out, and you can see it looks really effective. I've actually turned it over, that was the way that it was, but because of the way it cuts, it's like when you pull it off the mat, it pulls these pieces up, so I think that could be a bit of a pain when it comes to inking through. So I've turned it up that way, and I think that's just fine. I mean, obviously if you're doing a word, then that would be an issue. So then we ended up as well with these little pieces of poppy on the white cardstock left over, so I'm going to keep those because I may colour those in and put them on the inside as a bit of fun, or just for another card, or we may even use it for building some layers, I don't know, but I'm not going to throw those away at the moment. Okay, so that's all cut out, so we're going to put him to one side for the moment, and we're going to just make our base card. Okay, so for our base card I'm using this gorgeous hunky-dory sort of swirls. It's a red swirled cardstock with sort of, it's a mirror swirl, if you can just see how beautiful that looks, and it's just plain white on the back, although you can see the indents hopefully from the embossing, but since we're going to be covering that, it's not important, because this is actually going to be the inside of my card. You know, we're going to be doing a lot of design and pattern on the front, and I think it would be really boring to have it just plain white on the outside, on the inside. So I thought it'd be really nice to go for this, because my card is going to be kind of creams and the reds, so I thought that would work really well. So we're going to score that, fold that in half, and that would make an A5 card, but we're actually going to cut this down to as near to 6x6 as we can get, which with an A5 card is slightly, with an A4 card, I mean, when you fold it, it's slightly off the 6x6, but that's quite good, because if you're doing building of layers, it gives you that little bit of space in your envelope, in your 6x6 envelope, for some height. So we're going to look at the width, and it is 1/8 off 6 inches, so I'm going to cut it 1/8 off 6 inches this way as well. So that's that cut and scored. So as you can see, the inside, when you open it, it's just going to look really fun, and we've got sentiment and stuff to put in there, and we'll put something so people can write, but at least then it's not kind of plain and boring. So that's the front of our card, and then we're going to take some of this gorgeous K&Co paper, and we're going to stick that across the whole of the front of the card. So I'm just going to use my glue tape pen and put that all over the front and stick that down and cut it to size. Okay, so that's that all done, and we've got a gorgeous inside and a beautiful outside. Now the next part is we're going to do red matte and then our cream matte with our stencil used on it and all the inks, etc. done. So I can't do that part until I've actually done the stenciling, etc., because obviously the sizing may be different, and I want to try and do it as tight to the stencil as possible so that we get some of this beautiful card paper showing through. So I'm going to be using this lovely, it's not cream and it's not milk, it's kind of a slightly crafty coloured cream, if that makes sense. It's just slightly tanny, so it's really pretty. So I'm going to be using that for my stencil. Now I want to try and size this correctly, so I'm going to pop this into the corner and then we will cut round it once we've done the inking, but at the moment we're going to pop it in there because we want to make it a square. Okay, so I cut a piece of the creamy card that I just showed you to 5 inches by 5 inches because I think that's going to be roughly what I want it to be, so it's a nice square. And then I lined my stencil up centrally and I just put a bit of the purple double-sided low tack tape on the back to hold it in place, and I also put a tiny bit of my adhesive glue runner, which is like a temporary adhesive, just on a couple of these little pieces here, just to hold them in place for when we're doing the inking, just because those are quite fine pieces and I'm worried that they'll get caught up and then you'll get horrible blendy lines. Okay, so I've lined up my inks on the side here and I've just got a selection of 3 reds and 3 greens. I don't know if I'm going to use them all, I will see what happens. And I've got some little daubers and I'm going to basically start with the lighter colour and then just add some shading, etc. in using these. Okay, so starting with the lightest colour, I've got this light green that's called moss green. These are all colour box inks. So we're going to start with this one and just starting on the paper rather than onto the actual image, and then we're just going to lightly ink through. What I want is to get kind of some variation and some shading in our colouring. Oops, I just coloured my poppy green, but not to worry, I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, and then we're going to get our next colour, and I was going to use this middle sort of green, but I'm looking at this now, I'm thinking that it probably isn't what I want because it looks a bit blue if you look, but maybe if I add it with this one, kind of mix it together a little bit. I'm making like a palette of it on my mat here, just as a little blob, so the inks will then mix together. I think that'll give a better effect because we don't want it too dark coming. And then some of the darker just at the bottom there. And just blending that in. Just use my finger, I think, just to soften that a little bit. There we go. Lovely. Okay, and then going back to our little palette on the side there. Just being careful to miss our poppy heads. And then again using the darker just around the bottom, and then the finger just to blend that in. There we go. want to just go back and add a little bit of the lime just on some of the areas up here, and I'm just going to use the actual ink pad because I think that will just brighten it up a little bit to give it sort of a highlighted feel. To soften that up a little bit. There we go. Hopefully that will look quite nice, but you never know. Okay, and then we're going to use now our reds to do our poppy heads. So again, starting with the paler one, and sorry, the three greens, by the way, were moss green, green and emerald, and then our reds are scarlet, cranberry and magenta. Okay, so again, starting with a softer colour, which is the scarlet, we're going to just go over our poppy. What a gorgeous poppy colour that is. And it is hiding that green that went in there, which is good. It's kind of blending through. I think because it's ink, it kind of blends it. I just want to grab my green again and just very carefully, just around the bottom of the poppy, put a tiny bit of dark, because poppies always have that little bit of dark around the bottom, like that. And then I'll take my ink again and just then soften that in. There we go. And then we're going to take our cranberry, which is a lovely rich colour, and we're going to again just going round on this bottom area. Okay, and I don't really think that we need, I'm just going to use the end of this cranberry because I don't think we really need the darker colour now, because actually it's not a lot darker, it's more pink. The magenta is more pinky, so I'm not sure we really need that one. And then I'm just going to take the scarlet again and just go around the top edge, just making that top edge nice and scarlety. Because you want the tones in there. There we go. And I'm covered in ink, and you don't see ink all over my hands very often. Okay, so that's that all inked up now, so we'll just give that a moment and then we'll reveal it. So I just inked up my spare poppies in case I needed them, so I've done that, and while that's off drying we're going to get our grand caliber out and we're going to cut out what we need. Okay, so we're going to be cutting out this poppy patch Die Delights Spellbinders die, and you can see it's quite a cute little poppy design, so I think that will look really nice on our design. So we're going to cut that out a couple of times. I think I want at least two of those. Use this lovely card, the same creamy cardstock again. So I'm just going to pop that. That's my base plate, so I want to put my die facing upwards. And actually I'm going to put my cutting mat down first, because then I can see where I'm putting my cut. And I'm going to pop the template on top and pop that through the machine. Okay, so we've done the cutting out now, and you can see they've come out really lovely. So now I just want to ink the bottom of these, so I'm just going to use my green, and I'm just very carefully trying to ink just the stems, etc. But to a certain extent it's not too important because I am going to be glittering the actual poppy heads, so I think that will cover that all up anyway pretty much. So if there are any little green bits on there, I don't think it's the end of the world. There we go. And then I'm just going to take my line pad and I'm just going to pop it over the top because I think it just gives a nice colouring to it. Just lifts it a little bit as well, makes it stop looking so flat. And there we go. So that's that one done. I probably will, excuse me, I probably will put the red on the poppy heads just in case there are any gaps in the glittering. But and then we're going to do the same on this other one. And then I'm just using the cranberry just to put a base of red to go under the glitter. So again, I'm going to leave those to dry. Just add a little bit of dark to those ones and to these ones. While our poppies that we just cut out on the Spellbinders calibre is drying, we're just going to peel this off and hope that it's worked out really nicely. And we haven't finished it yet, we need to still do a little bit more work. Just very carefully, because obviously don't forget you've put the temporary adhesive on there. And there we go. I think that's come out lovely. I'm really pleased with that. And there's a little bit of green at the bottom there. So I may just chop a little bit more off around the edges at the top and bottom. I think that looks really stunning. I've just taken that down just a tiny bit, so it's now 1/8 under 5 inches, just to get rid of the green at the bottom, because I should have thought a little bit of this card was sticking out, and when I went and did the inking it just damaged that. So now I just want to age this a little, so I thought that I would use this Desert Sand Memento ink pad. I guess you probably would use something like your Tim Holtz maybe, but I don't really have any of those, so I'm hoping this will work, just to make it a little less harsh. So that's that all done, and I deliberately went over the middle bit, and because it slightly smudged the ink, which wasn't quite dry, so it's merged the pink and the green into the background, which I think gives a really nice effect. It really softens it down, stops it being so harsh, so I'm really pleased with that. So that's going to be now mounted on to our lovely red cardstock. So we could probably do this about 5 inches by 5 inches, because we just want a small border, and this is 4 1/8, so I think, sorry, 4 7/8, so I think that will probably work. Okay, so that's mounted onto there. So now we need to be very careful because this ink is still wet, but I think that what we want to do is pop our poppies on the bottom here, and I need to just work out exactly where I want them, just as a rough idea, because I think they could overlap the edge of the design like that, and I think that would look quite nice. And I think I'll leave the other ones that we've done for the inside. So I think that's going to work really well, like so. So what we need to do is pop this to one side for the moment and get a piece of card and glitter the poppy heads so they can be drying off while we put the rest of this card together. So let's just take that. I'm going to use my zig pen here, so we're just going to literally pop a bit of the zig over our poppy heads. Like so. Put this one to one side for a minute. And I've got some Hunky Dory Festive Red Diamond Sparkles. And then we're just going to plonk that down on top, like so. Give it a second, and then there we go. Look at that, isn't that wonderful? How effective is that? So again, pop that to one side to dry, and then do exactly the same with our second one. Okay, so I've cut a label from the Spellbinders labels 18, so I'm going to pop that in there. That's on the inside of the card, and that will give me somewhere to write as well. And then I've got a Birthday Wishes, which has got a red and white stripe on cream, which is quite a good match, so we'll pop that in the middle as well. Actually I might pop, yeah, in the middle, like so. There we go, so that's the inside done. And now on the outside we need to stick down our background that we created. And I think that really works on that background paper. I think that looks really nice. It just all in keeping. And then we're going to take our little poppies that we've got here, and we're going to place those like so. I'm just trying to I think about like that, maybe that one's slightly over. Kind of like that, I think. Or maybe we need to bring that one over a bit. Okay, I've just cut one little poppy off the front here because I'm going to place him exactly where I want him rather than trying to fiddle it in because it wasn't quite working. So now we're going to stick those down. So we're going to use the glue gel, and we're just going to very lightly pop a little bit of glue on the back of our poppies themselves, and then along the base here, and then just very lightly wipe a little bit of the glue gel on the stalks. Okay, and then we're going to pick this up and we're going to put that in place, which is going to be fun. Okay. So we want it on the baseline here, and we know it's going to slightly overlap the end. And position our poppies. Gently squishing them down, like so. So here we go, we've put both of them down now, and I've added that extra poppy. I curved this one a little bit more so it filled in that gap, and I've managed to pop that one up a little bit so it filled in the gap as well. So he's just coming from a slightly different position because it looked just a little bit off. So that's those done. So now we just want to put our sentiment on the front. So I've got this sentiment that I found that was from Hunky Dory, but it had a silver edge, so I used my Pro markers and I used the poppy colour appropriately enough, and I just coloured over the edge. I then just went round the edge and snipped off a little bit of there was like a bluey part around the edge which didn't really cover over very well with the red, so I snipped that all off and it made it that little bit smaller, which was handy. So we're going to be popping that in the corner there, and that then doesn't overlap our poppies either. So I'm going to use some of my glue gel for that. And stick that in the corner. Okay, so I added the poppies to the inside. I just used my glue gel and I just cut the bottom off that one to make it a bit shorter to give a little cluster. So I think that looks really pretty. It just adds something because it's so decorated on the front. So that's the inside completed, and then the outside looks like this. So you can see it's so beautiful and sparkly. So I hope you've enjoyed making this card with me, and I'd love to hear your comments, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!